The 18th Annual India Chemical Industry Outlook Conference and Exhibition, organized by the Indian Chemical Council, was centered around the theme Engineering the Future, Reinventing the Indian Chemicals Sector for Enhanced Resilience. This two-day event brought together leaders from the Indian chemical industry, offering a platform for networking and discussions on emerging trends, strategies for businesses to leverage new opportunities, mitigate risks, and much more. In this episode, we bring you exclusive highlights from the event.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This signature event of ICC is the 18th in a row attended by leaders of the Indian chemical industry and overseas.
The day kicked off with a welcome address by Kamal P. Nanavati, Chairman, Conference and Exhibition Expert Committee, ICC.
The domestic demand for specialty chemicals is expected to rise, as I said earlier, driven by the end-user industry. We were about $38 billion in 2020. This year, we hope it'll clock $80 billion. And going forward, it'll almost increase by almost, I would say nearly 50% to about $132 billion. The key demand drivers are textile industry, pharma and healthcare, the smart city mission, batteries, really a new angle, new whole opportunity really opening up, crop protection, and of course the demand coming from white goods. All of the above growth verticals require chemicals and specialty chemicals for their continuous growth.
In an era of geopolitical uncertainties, supply chain disruptions, and evolving environmental mandates, reinventing and future-proofing this sector is crucial. Despite recent challenges, the industry is expected to see moderate progress in the near future, with production levels continuing to rise as the destocking cycle wanes and demand increases across most products. India, in particular, has significant opportunity to excel in the chemical industry, with factors such as rising domestic consumption, shifting supply chains, and competitive labor and utility costs.
Today, India's PV plus wind is the size of Tripura, and if all of electricity from India has to come from these two, it will be more than half the state of Maharashtra, and we just don't have the land. Anytime you do LCA, you take it away from food production, which is farm, or deforestation, the LCA is going to look horrible. LCA, the planet is worse off, right? So please keep that in mind. While we should, wherever there is no grid available, PV and wind are great. But to connect to grid, and for our industry, you need continuous big power.
As long as we've tracked, and this only goes back to 2003, but if you take this back to like 1930, the chemicals industry has outperformed the broader stock market just across the board. And for the first time in the last couple of years, we're seeing the chemicals industry actually underperform on a total shareholder return standpoint the rest of the stock market. There's a few reasons for that, and I'll jump into them, but let's start there. That is a monumental shift. It's a huge shift for our industry. And there's a few different ways to think about it. So we've excluded industrial gases from here because they just perform on a different curve. But Chinese chemicals have been part of it. So we all know the Chinese chemical industry was jamming for a long time, it's kind of slowed down. And then the other part you have is you have the Magnificent Seven, the NVIDIAs of the world that have really been growing, but those still don't explain it, right? It's only part of it. And so, at the end of the day, chemicals is just flat underperforming where it has been before.
If you analyze simply statistically the amount of countries where we depend on a single country for more than 60% of a product, there's about 160 chemical tariff codes where we are that dependent. And that will have to change in the coming years. One of them, relatively important for India, is the active pharmaceutical ingredients, where we found out during the COVID crisis that we couldn't supply ourselves. And that with hospitals on 3-day stocks, when no further supply would arrive. That's why the European Commission is out here as well, to see if we can not only create those independencies in Europe, but if we also can create them by training with different partners around the world, and basically come to the ideal situation where for 1/3 of your supply you're depending on Asia, from 1/3 on Europe, and from 1/3 of the US.
It's a vision for the state of Andhra Pradesh to become a developed state, one of the top 3 developed states in the country by 2047. And we wish to do that by becoming a $2.4 trillion economy by 2047, which is pretty ambitious. I mean, given the fact that, we are roughly around $180 billion economy as of today. And we wish to become a $2.4 trillion economy by 2047. And that means we need to grow at a consistent rate of at least 15%. So that's the target that we have set for ourselves. And that has been broken down into various milestones as to what we need to achieve over the next 5 years, so on and so forth. So the next 5 years, I think the target that the state has set for itself is to consistently grow at 15% GSDP. And we wish to, create roughly around 20 lakh jobs or 2 million jobs over the next 5 years. And our focus areas, besides manufacturing, IT, data centers, and AI, is chemicals and petrochemicals.
Our position globally is not as good as we should be at 7th in the world and the 4th largest in Asia, with about more than slightly over 2% of contribution to global chemical market. But therein lies the opportunity, for a quantum jump. Our exports from the chemical sector have been steadily contributing a significant 7% of the merchandise exports at about $45 billion last year. In the sector of dyes, we are the second biggest exporter in the world. In agrochemicals, also we are the second biggest exporter of the world and the 4th largest producer. Indian chemical sector is unregulated, except for very few chemicals, as you know. And that's the reason we have had a steady inflow of foreign direct investment to the tune of $22 billion in the last 2 decades.
To ensure continued growth, it is essential to encourage investments, promote research, focus on product development and exports, and integrate with global value chains. The government is dedicated to creating an environment conducive to investment and growth in the industrial sector. A key pillar that needs to be strengthened to achieve this is that of research and development, both in public as well as private sector. DCPC has approved 5 new centers of excellence during this financial year, and we are planning to add 3 more in the coming year. The department is also trying to establish a dedicated portal to enhance cooperation between industry and technology research institutions. Till date, more than 1,000 industries and about 50 institutions have joined the portal. The newly launched BioE3 policy would encourage the use of renewable resources, adoption of cleaner technology, and reduction of carbon footprint while pushing economic growth.
For India to become a global hub for chemical manufacturing, we must focus on building very robust and secure supply chains. Sustainability, of course, environment, the most important part of chemical manufacturing growth and resilience will be the limitation of environmental impact of the industry. Sustainable practices, including waste reduction, energy efficiency, and responsible use of resources, will be the key to ensuring our chemical manufacturing sector thrives in the long term.
May I now request to launch the white paper, please.
Our next session focuses on the theme Staying Ahead, strategies for navigating margin cyclicality while ensuring value unlock. Moving on, we had an exclusive chat on learnings from China's journey in the chemical sector between Deepak C. Mehta, Chairman and Managing Director, Deepak Group, and Sheng Hong, Senior Partner, McKinsey & Company, Shanghai.
What is it that, so far as the chemical industry is concerned, that makes China so much strong and constantly growing?
There is a belief in China is if the economy goes fast, and so the number one is the confidence in the economy. Do you have it or not? Right? The demand will always come because people need to wear more clothes. I think the confidence number 2 is more recent, but also extremely interesting, extremely in the private-owned enterprises, where they're much more economic-driven. I would call it the first principle approach. What is the first principle approach? Is I don't care what's overcapacity out there, but if the capacity today are not the most competitive that I can possibly imagine, then there's an opportunity for me.
Up next, we bring you a glimpse of a panel discussion on growth opportunities in India, role of chemical industry to achieve Viksit Bharat 2047. Our next session focuses on the theme New Frontiers of the Indian Chemical Industry.
As most of you can see, we have a trade war brewing on the horizon at this point in time, largely initiated by the US. So the latest on the news is, as of today, there's a 25% tariff on Mexican and Canadian imports, and there's a 10% tariff applied on Chinese imports, which is additional to the 10% that was already applied in January.
Our presence in India, we're now continuing to grow. We recently announced the Innovation Center for Semiconductor Manufacturing, which is a state-of-the-art R&D capability to build products for Applied Materials here while working with our suppliers, our ecosystem partners, to bring new technologies and sourcing new elements into our business. And there are ways to bring suppliers, whether those are technology, engineering, material suppliers, to get them qualified into our system.
These customers in the semiconductor world, they follow actually generally a similar quality system to the automotive. And if you ever dealt with automotive, they need complete traceability of every step, not just you, but your vendors, and maybe even their vendors as well, need to be checked.
Up next, we bring you a glimpse of a panel discussion on mastering the M&A game, putting India on the global map through M&As.
You know, once one decides on the growth strategy that, you know, X, Y, Z, we want to play in this particular area, we want to do this, we want to do that. I think we've at least looked at M&A as just one leg of the strategy. It cannot be M&A as a strategy. It's one leg of the strategy. We've always been very, very conscious also of the fact that there has to be something which makes sense in the M&A. It cannot be M&A for the sake of M&A, whether it's complementing the existing portfolio or whether it's a technology platform which we want to acquire.
We started our journey by acquiring an asset in India itself, and we lifted and shifted it to a new greenfield site. We had 4 or 5 products, and it has grown to more than 40, 50 products, so no question about it that this acquisition gave us enough power to grow our business multifold and made us enter into fields that we had not envisaged earlier. It also got us into the R&D space, where we now have a full-fledged innovation center and where we believe the future will lie in these kind of innovations.
The event also featured a session on Startup Bootcamp, where industry experts discussed the theme Disruptions in the Space, elevator pitches by startup founders in the chemicals industry. A grand exhibition was held alongside the conference, providing an excellent platform to forge new business relationships, strengthen existing ones, and showcase technical prowess. The exhibition featured cutting-edge products and innovations spanning the chemical and allied industries, highlighting advancements across diverse verticals.
In India, most of our supply chain is locally sourced. What we try to do also to increase the security is find new partners. Also, when we establish new investments, which we actively look for in India.
The piece that I'm most excited about right now is AI and commercial, where people are using AI both to understand their customers better and to understand the exact needs of their customers, and then to modify their products so that it can meet the needs of customers.
We are looking to build a 100,000-ton graphite anode plant with an investment of 9,000 crores in Karnataka, and a 6,000 crore investment of LFP cathode in Karnataka as well for 100,000 tons of LFP CAM. Idea is to cater to the global market initially and at the same time focus on the Indian market, and as the Indian market matures, put more and more material back into the Indian market.
Indian chemical sector has been a very fundamental pillar of India's economic growth and its success story so far, and it would continue to remain a very important pillar in the goal of Honorable Prime Minister of India of achieving a Viksit Bharat by 2047, of achieving a turnover of $26 trillion.
Yeah, R&D and innovation is very important for chemical sector, especially for specialty chemicals.
Customers do realize that if they have to be resilient, they should be able to produce the same product with a much wider variety of raw materials or raw material sources. And for that, they need to bring technology, digitalization technology, which will enable them to do that.
Welcome back. Day 2 of the 18th Annual India Chemical Industry Outlook Conference and Exhibition began with an opening session that focused on strategies for innovation and resilience in India's chemical sector.
So let's just step back, into several centuries in the past and see, and some of you might already have seen this, that there are waves of innovation that primarily are focusing towards how do we make our living most comfortable. The first wave, of course, being the iron, water power and the like, steam power, electricity, chemicals, petrochemicals, digital networks.
It's a land of innovation, resilience, and boundless potential. That's why when we reviewed our own organization, we made clear choice as a company to keep a dedicated country manager in India and even appoint a chief strategy officer for whole Asia, who is with me, Chenpu, today in India. Because we see the immense opportunities this country offers, and we are committed to being part of your growth story. Today, I'm here alongside our teams to strengthen our connections and explore new avenues for growth together. And Syensqo is not new to India. We've been operating here since 2005, so nearly 20 years of commitments. We have 6 sites, a dedicated research and innovation center, and now it's an icon and beacon. It became a global research and innovation center, exporting technologies outside India and outside the region, with nearly 500 talented team members. And we are deeply invested in India's success.
Up next, we bring you a glimpse of a panel discussion on strategies for long-term value capture within specialty chemicals.
I know you're in refrigerants. Now, is the global warming or the climate change going to help increase the demand for your products? Is that a good thing? Is it sustainable? And what else, do you think you're looking at in terms of growth drivers?
So my view is when we look at specialty chemicals, in my perspective, it is something which imparts some special characteristics, or it is for some specialized application. Let me start with your first question about refrigerants. Already in SRF, we are looking at the next generation of refrigerants. We talked about the ozone depleting one, which have been phased out. We talked about global warming one, which are already having some restrictions over years. And now we are having the next-gen gases, which are going to be even eco-friendly as far as the global warming is concerned.
Our next session focuses on the theme Unlocking India's Potential, Embracing Sustainability as a Strategic Opportunity for Growth. Up next, we bring you a glimpse of a panel discussion on mastering process safety, lessons and best practices from the front line.
2 important words there. One is mastering process safety. I don't think we can master process safety so quickly. I think we can try to master. That's what I would say. And the second is best practices from the front line. I always tell people that in safety, there is no best yet. We can try to get there. So I would actually think that we are talking of good practices here, very good practices here, to try and be the best.
All of us are running chemical plants, growing the business, and there are a lot of initiatives done in terms of improving efficiencies, and so there are a lot of changes that are brought in. And many a time, the management of change is something that we need to pay adequate attention to.
Forming the basis of safety against which the design, construction, commissioning, and operations of plants are planned. So be it sort of the operational parameters, be it the operational controls, linked to it the competency of people, all of that helps form really the robust basis of safety against which PSM is built.
Next up, we bring you a glimpse of the session themed Developing the Ecosystem for the Future of the Indian Chemical Industry.
I think most of you would agree that by now almost 80% of the companies, not just in chemicals, but also across industries, have announced some sort of digital transformation initiatives in their respective areas. But what is also true is only 30% of those companies have actually made any meaningful impact on their businesses on the back of these digital transformation initiatives. Which means, if you look at it globally, 1 in 4 company only have been able to get something meaningful and at scale out of their digital initiatives.
Up next, we bring you a glimpse of a panel discussion on building resilient supply chains in the chemical industry.
I think the greatest strength what we have today is that I have seen that Indian chemical industries have got a tremendous capacity to hold back and come back and face the challenge.
The event also featured a session on cultivating future leaders, developing leadership at every level, where industry experts shared their insights on fostering leadership skills across all tiers of the organization. Day 2 of the event concluded with a vote of thanks by D. Sothi Selvam, Director General of ICC.
To all the delegates, participants, industry stakeholders, your active engagement and thoughtful contributions have been the driving force behind the success of this conference. As we conclude, let's carry forward the learnings, insights, and connections forged during this conference. The Indian chemical industry stands at a pivotal juncture, and together we have the power to engineer a future that's not only resilient, but also transformative.
Now let's hear from industry leaders as they share their perspectives on the chemical industry.
What we need to do is really to adapt quickly, right? Mitigate the risks. So my company, for example, has put surcharges on tariffs, right? But indeed, tariffs are going to impact the value chain by creating inflation if they last long, right? So listen, the chemical industry needs to build that resiliency. And the only way to build resiliency is to be adaptable, is to mitigate the risk through creating innovation at a lower total cost of ownership.
From the business point of view, from the safety point of view, from the environment point of view, and also, the compliances point of view, this responsible care has really given us a big impact as far as my company is concerned. And we are still the responsible care logo holder, and we would like to continue the same.
Well, I think it's quite an exciting time for India. Of course, we've got new investment from Tata and Gujarat, where the first proper fabrication will be built. And I think that's the start of probably quite a few more in the future.
There's an opportunity clearly in the decarbonization side where there are enough levers today that can help, for example, optimize your energy costs, a blend of renewable with hybrid, with the grid, etc. And that brings your energy costs down. And those are viable solutions today. So it also solves decarbonization challenges while solving economics and therefore profitability.
India is only about 2.5% of the total chemical sales in the world. Okay, so in a way, you can say this is an opportunity for us as well. We know that we can compete with players, whether it's China or Europe or anywhere else in the world.
Big thing we're working on is to increase demand for sustainable chemicals so that our customers actually also are able to pay the premium for the investments we're making. So current setting is demand side measures, and then indeed making sure that we get the simplification of REACH and that we get clarity on the legal measures coming out of the first chemical strategy. So it's very much about creating the markets.